You are the world looking through you. Hello everyone. What Mr. Within would like to talk about today is the significance of a being realizing the influence of the world that is within their vision. You are the world looking through you. What that means is this sense of individuality, the sense of personality. That person who wakes up in the morning and goes to work is being aware of the routine. He's looking at objectivity and realizing that it's the subjective presence. But aside from that, being aware that existential observance holds everything through an emptiness that is aware of all form. Your fulfillment comes in your existential sensitivity to know yourself through many ways. And all these ways come to you, for you are the way. You are the next step to your greater sense of awareness. Who else can carry your consciousness? It is you. And consciousness right now is being talked about because the objectivity is thinking it's too objective. What that means is you may bring armies of textbooks and words that are suggesting that ideas are originating reality, but you do not realize Mr. Within is beyond the thinker. What is within you is beyond the externality that is suggesting the cage of an elusive reality. Your reality is all illusion, first of all, is being directly experienced. It's just the awareness of how much you're letting life happen as life rather than interpreting every aspect of life. What that means is it seems that we seem to be given this conscious flashlight the minute we open our eyes in the morning, and even though it's daylight and we're looking around and we're going about our day, but it's as if we have this flashlight of attention and awareness, and we're looking through the dark of this infinite vastness of this cosmos. You will see that what deep self-contemplation, in a sense, does is that it takes away the need for doing anything and brings all the attention to the direct experience of the where you are presently a moment of being. What that means is I used to walk as a certain named individual until I realized the nature of names comes from the acceptance of a sense of self that even can be named. What that means is they named us, then all the problems began, because the name suggested an individuality that could not see its collective. But the name has come to you out of silence. All sound has evolved from the silence, just like how man has stood up from the ground. All movement has come from this stillness. And if Kronos was here, he would tell you that chaos is holding all over. Even though Zeus might not agree. You see, it is not also a kind of be careful Icarus situation. However, as an idea looks around, it must immediately bring itself to a sense of sincerity and honesty, and then through that sense of sincerity and honesty, see that the simplest quality of how you are alive is handling life. What that means is, could you judge how someone's heart was naturally beating? Could you judge a tree for growing the way it is? Could you judge your eyes? Whoa, 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 whoa. Could we judge our eyes? Yes, man has been judging his eyes. Man has been giving sight shape. We have a dictionary which is holding images of reality which we are utilizing as language. It seems that Mr. Within is playing through the temporal realms of terminology. However, the being who plays knows that there's an intelligence beyond the game, so you pretty much have fun. You see, unconsciously you are absolute awareness. It's just that consciously, because the lens is just this individual modality of a sense of individual having to figure things out, it will always be hard to get collective realizations because you're saying I'm an individual, of course, you know? And I'm pretty sure, again, what the placebo effect would say if it was here, you know, as a person, it would say, again, be careful, Icarus. There is a capacity of your own self-realization that does not need another man's voice to try to fill up your truth. All that another man's words can do is project an externality which, again, you are being aware of. So you may hate your enemy and you might have the ignorance to call a person an enemy, but you will see that every form present in your awareness is a blessing to be grateful, because it is the act of divinity beyond the actor. And this is profound. This shakes man. This shakes the reality of incapability. What that means is when your nature is unshaken, you seem to be feeling a bit shaky. And in that silence and stillness of being, you will begin to see that what is backing up this sense of individuality, what is making it so hard for this individuality to realize its collectivity, is its lack of acceptance and confrontation of the world within. What that means is certain beings who become aware through an integratively transcendental and fractal manner of the nature of reality are no longer hindered by how space and time should be dictated by the dictator, which is the person who's speaking in that moment, which is usually you if you go alone. So what I notice is that I used to judge a lot of people's comments back when I was walking through different shoes, but once I went into nature and I actually took off my shoes, I began to see that the judgments were also on me too. Everything that I've criticized externally out of my world, when I observed it, they dissolved into it began from me. Because who else could find that kind of unique judgment? When you see that every moment is suggesting the inspiration of the walk of life you have taken, you see that maturity was also the awareness to the existence that is here. What that means is there's this very beautiful story of these two Zen monks, and one of them is a senior monk, and the other is a junior, and the junior is just signed up for monk school, And of course, very, very gracefully, they're walking, and of course, monks renounce a lot of earthly, in regards to, in a sense, I don't want to term this, every person's different, renunciation is a personal thing, but these monks, they had certain restrictions in activity. So these monks are walking, and suddenly, this senior monk and junior monk see this extremely beautiful woman, and she can't cross some kind of puddle or stream thing to get to her place. And the monks are standing there, and the junior's like, there's no way we're gonna help her, we're not allowed to, And the junior is thinking this in his mind, but suddenly sees that the senior walks up to the woman, holds the woman, carries the woman, and across the stream or puddle or whatever, and helps her to the other side, and she thanks him, and she leaves. And the monk, comes back to the junior, and they begin walking. And the junior is stunned. It's like, what the, it's like, this guy's my senior. How is he doing this? He's broken the rules. He's broken the code of conduct. While they're walking, the senior monk is very gracefully walking, and suddenly the junior can't take it anymore. And he says, "Sir, how could you do this? How could you carry that woman? How could you touch her? How could you carry that woman there? We're not allowed to do this. We're not allowed to carry women." And the senior monk turns around with a smile that is as transcendental as dawn. And he looks at the junior monk and he says, I carried her across the stream, across the puddle. You are still carrying her in your mind. And immediately this junior monk finds a humility that gets rid of his ignorance. And he begins to realize that truly the senior monk is senior for a reason. And what that really suggests is that this story is suggesting how we keep worlds alive and we are inducing it. There's a sense of projection naturally happening. Right now, me speaking to you, how these words are having meaning for you is based on how you have lived, and it's just there's a projection of ideas. So when I say apple, you know, someone might be seeing Newton's apple, someone might be seeing Eve's apple, you know? The apple of Eve. So we are beginning to see that we are unified in how the nature of the experience of this existence is happening within a moment. And this subtlety will shift your view that there never was a you in a world, but there was the whole happening. There was the whole happening. You are the world looking through you. And when you find the simplicity to challenge your greatest fear and to allow yourself to be comfortable with any projection of reality, whether it's the worst condition of man, whether it's the best condition of man, we are being so aware and able beyond our ignorance that we will pull each other up by knowing that we are beings of great ascension. And this ascension is an ascension beyond ideology. It is not some fantasy land where you're changing one story for another. For in the silence of some sages, they have been battling for eons the ideas that are even present in conception. What that means is the warrior is found to be present through a war. However, the sage is becoming aware of the fluctuation of all form. And so to see only a war-like scenario and being a certain warrior also implies a certain choice. So the sage learns through the wisdom of choicelessness, which is an empty existential observance. However, then there is a recalibration once the being is aware that it is transcendentally present, that your multidimensionality is how you handle your individual dimensionality, let's say, your certain dimensionality. And your multidimensionality is, trust me, it is not something that could be worded. And some of our greatest poets, some beings who have just gone to the forest to not find wild animals, but to find the wildest ideas known to man. And these poets still cannot touch it because this plane of existence is dualistic, but poetry has shaken it. What that means is you will begin to see that the guru realizes that he is here to guide your physical form, because that's why there's a physical consideration. But at the same time knows that beyond the physical, the guidance is occurring. So once the drop is guided to the stream, it will always see itself to have had direction. And And similarly, you begin to look at the modalities of existence, how existence is just real. And you will see that all that the individual is, once there is a sense of self-remembrance and self-aware self-inquiry, the seer was the sight of all that could be seen. And the fulfillment of this world came when the hand that let go realized the grip towards a greater reach. What that means is if you've been writing with the same, let's say, pencil or pen your whole life, you need to let go of that pen and then try a new pen, or just don't try anything for a little bit, and then if you choose to, see that you can always pick up that pen. You can always utilize for reference and, I guess, in a sense, personal sense of study, every view and memory that is in your awareness. Guided by natural presence, there was nothing that was wrong or right, but the awareness to possibility is never impossible. And you will see this divine reunion of the individual consciousness and the individual's awareness to a sense of collective consciousness and collective awareness is that moment where there is no, I don't want to say difference, but you will see in a manner that is very unspeakable in your knowing, but that the individual and the collective, you and your world, are present in a moment of experience. So the experiencer of the moment is the most direct knowing of how reality is manifest, and immediately the intelligence cannot be limited to one dimension. For it was beyond one dimension. That is how one dimension is kept. So your multidimensionality keeps this sense of, again, dimensionality here, certain dimensionality here. And we're not trying to flip coins here to see what the chances of change are. Our acts of knowing will provide the greatest existential allowance for the expression of that which we are made for to be. For you are always your own making. Moment that is your experience of this existence is the blessing of all that you're aware of being aware of itself. Beauty becomes found not just in your in fulfillment through form, but also through absence. So you need to both begin to in a sense be comfortable with all acts of creation, all acts of form being manifested, and also a sense of deconstruction as well. What that means is you need to also acknowledge the absence of creation, as creation changes. So there's one way which the human being, it seems, has been thinking that, all right, I'm this individual thing, born, and I'm gonna die, and this is it, so let's just see what this is, right? But you will see that in seeing what this is, your direct experience is leading you to a movement beyond yourself. What that means is the reason you might have an ambition, the reason perhaps you are still alive is because you want to see beyond yourself. And you must begin accepting yourself and observing that self and seeing that it does not have to be. Memories should not be memoirs of despair that are making this multidimensional traveler's baggage a bit heavy. You are catalyzed by all that you know to be aware of all that. Guided by the graceful winds.